Hi, I'm Allie Hamilton, and I'm so happy to welcome you to the Come As You Are podcast. Every week, we'll be talking about some aspect of healing, usually around childhood wounds and complicated familial relationships. The topics will always coincide with my personal essay of the week, and this will be a place where we can take a deep dive together. I'm so thrilled you've joined me and delighted for you to always come as you are.
Hi there. Hi there. This is part 2 of Catch and Release. All of that was like last week. And then, you wake up this week, right? And it's like you start hearing about the Hortmans and the Hoffmans and what is happening in Minnesota. And it's like it's hard for me to it's hard for me to even talk about this because it is so deeply disturbing. But you have a man, and I don't like to, I get really tired of these people who do harm, who do violence, and their name is the one that's in the news all the time. I'm going to say his name once, Vance Bolter. And this guy, big supporter of the president, absolutely infected with this hatred and this contempt and this disdain. So much so that he's got a list in his truck of 45 Democratic lawmakers, representatives, politicians, 45 of them in his truck that he's going to go and assassinate. That's his plan. And this guy runs a security company. So he's got guns and he's got, all kinds of things. He knows, he's looked up their addresses. He's used public websites to figure out where they live. He's got a cop uniform. And a vehicle that looks like a police vehicle. And he shows up at the Hoffmans, and is banging on the door. And this is what he did at Melissa Hortman's house as well. Knocks on the door. It's like 3:00 in the morning. And, you wake up as you would, right? You hear pounding on your door. You go out to the door. You see a police vehicle on your driveway with the lights going. You see a cop on your doorstep. You open the door. Of course you do. And you get murdered. You, your husband, your family dog. That's the Hortmans. Melissa Hortman. Who was from 2019 to 2025 the 61st Speaker of the House in Minnesota. Amazing woman. I didn't know a lot about her until this week. She was like the top of her class. One of these just exceptional people. She's 55. I'm 54. She's 55 years old. So just imagine, this is how young she is when she's murdered in her house. Just leaving 2 kids behind, a son and a daughter, just like I have, to try to make sense of this, and her husband and their family dog, Gilbert, whom she saved, rescue dog. She did a lot of work with rescue dogs. She interned with Al Gore. She was an attorney. In 2017, she got a lot of attention because she called out these Republican lawmakers who were playing cards in the retiring room, the go chill out room off the House chamber in Minnesota, while 2 Democratic women of color were speaking about a House a safety budget bill. There were discussions on the House floor in the chamber about a a public safety bill. And these guys who are supposed to be there engaged, right, listening to people, listening to how they feel, are off playing cards. And she called them out. You know, this is the kind of person. She was always doing work on the environment, on abortion rights, on sane gun control legislation, on police reform. She was the chief author of Minnesota's solar energy bill. Like, this was a remarkable human being. And she's not here anymore because this crazed MAGA lunatic decided she didn't get to be here anymore. He's poisoned by this hatred that is trickling down from the top. From the top. He's being poisoned the same way that people are being poisoned who are screaming at us here in Los Angeles when our city's on fire that we'll just get new mansions next week. It's the same disease. It's the lack of compassion. It's the fuck you. If you don't believe what I believe, you don't deserve to live. Go fuck yourself. It's that energy. It's ugly. It's ugly. It's a disease. It's a soullessness. It's a contempt that is going to, it's going to do you in. It's going to do you in if you let that infect your heart. He went and killed these people. And you want to know? Then he went to the Hoffmans, okay? He went to the Hoffmans after that, John and Yvette. And their adult daughter, Hope, was there. And he did the same thing. He knocked on the door. They got up. He shot John 9 times. He shot Yvette 8 times. She threw her body over her daughter. Her daughter, Hope, is the one who called 911. Her parents, some miraculous way, survived. Like some unbelievable way. Shot 9 times her dad, shot 8 times her mother. Sometime, like, they're still alive. As the manhunt is going on for this despicable creature, okay, who has no remorse, by the way. He texts his family a couple hours later and says, Dad went to war last night. Dad went to war last night. No remorse for what he's done at all. Mike Lee, who is the senator, the Republican senator of Utah, gets on X and says, nightmare on Wall Street. Governor Walz, Tim Walz, nightmare on Wall Street. That's his response. This is what you get when you vote for Marxism. That was another one. Marjorie Taylor Greene puts up a picture of herself with an assault weapon. This is what you get when you vote for Marxism. The president of the United States is asked, have you called the governor? Have you called the governor? Because here we have this woman and her husband and their family dog assassinated, politically motivated assassination, and then attempted assassination, and then 43 other people on a list. So, yeah, you're the president of the United States. You call the governor of the state where this heinous thing has just occurred. But not our president. Nope. You know what he does? He says, why would I call him? He's a mess, the governor. He's a mess. Why would I waste my time? It's a waste of time. He uses that moment to insult the governor of a state that is reeling in grief and shock, and he insults the governor. This is a despicable creature. devoid of empathy or depth or character or integrity. This is not a decent human being. It's not. That is not the response of anyone with any decency in them, any empathy in them. That's not what you do. And you all know that. You all know that. You know that. And I'm so tired. I'm tired of people pretending they don't know that. You know that. Every single person who voted for this, you know better than that. You absolutely do. And if you allow yourself to be infected with this just absolute lack of compassion and decency, forget it. Because these people, if you think he cares about you because you voted for him, you are in for a giant surprise. He does not care about you. He doesn't care about you any more than he cares about me or the brown people that he's rounding up or anyone. He does not care. He's selling phones now, golden phones. He's selling watches. A couple weeks ago, he was selling cars. He's selling cryptocurrency. He doesn't give a shit about any of us, and neither do any of the people he has brought into power along with him. They don't care about us at all. They don't care. And I don't know what it's going to take for people to understand, but I'm going to tell you, I will not do this thing that a lot of his supporters have done to me, to our state, to my friends, to people in my community. I will not hate anyone. I won't do it. I don't hate the president. I don't hate any of the people in power. I have zero respect. I think they are dreadful, terrible people with no integrity, with no ethics, with no morals, with no compassion, with no depth, with no love of this country. I think they're the worst. They are Christo-fascists. They are racists. They are billionaires. They are scary, awful human beings. But I don't harbor hate in my heart. I just want them out of power. And I would really love for the people who, mistakenly gave their loyalty and allegiance to this bunch of human beings to realize this was a mistake. It is fine. I agree we need big change in this country, and what we've been doing, swinging from left to right, isn't working. I agree with you. It's not working. These are the absolute wrong people, the wrong people. And if you don't see it yet, I'm so sorry to tell you, you're going to see it. But by the time you do, it's going to be too late. That's my fear. If you don't start to wake up and realize this is not normal, okay? If this were a reverse situation, and that is the thing, you can yell about lib tears and all your, oh, lib tears, oh, look at the libs, lib tears, oh. You know what? This is just human beings still caring about their neighbors. That's what it is. When the grid goes out in Texas, okay, I don't say to myself, good, fuck those people. I don't do that. I really don't. I say to myself, God, I hope those people are going to be okay. I really hope they're going to be okay. Is there somewhere I can donate? Is there something I can do? Is there some way I can help? When there's a hurricane in Florida, I do not say to myself, good, that's God punishing those people because they believe different things than I do. I hope it hits Mar-a-Lago. Fuck those people. I don't do that. I do not do that. I've never done that. But that's what happens in the reverse because y'all have been infected. You've been infected by a disease that is making you hate your fellow country people. God, I can't get over it. It's so sad to me. It is so sad to me. I don't do that. That would never, ever happen in my heart. I think to myself, I hope those people are going to be okay. You know, when I see there's a tornado in Kansas, I don't think to myself, good, fuck those people. Like that never, ever, ever happens in my heart. When I see federal funds being withheld from a red state, I don't say, good, see, you voted for this, screw you. Like, I don't do that. I do not do that because I don't want to see people suffering. This is not how it should be. I don't know how to get this across to some of you. I don't know what else I can say to you. This is not how we treat people. This is not it. And if you're confused, like, I don't know, but if you think this is a good direction, you've lost the thread. You know, the minute you have hate in your heart and contempt and disdain, you're infected. You've got the disease and you are now on the side of violence and lack of compassion. That is what enables you to stare at someone who is crying and suffering and say, good, I don't give a shit. That's what it is. And it isn't, you don't want this disease. It's not pretty. And, you know, I linked a whole bunch of stuff in the essay that you can go and click on. These people, the Stephen Millers, the, Russell Votes, the Heritage Foundation, so many of them in the cabinet, Musk, RFK Jr., some of you love this guy. He has said some unbelievably racist stuff. Like, you gotta educate yourself. Look at some of the things these people are saying. Please, Vance and Mike Johnson, they want women back popping out babies. Get the SAVE Act going. Make it harder for women to vote. These are not people who have your best interest at heart. What we have right now is the patriarchy funded by Christian white nationalists. That's what we have going on. Billionaires and Christian white nationalists. This is an oligarchy. We are not in a democracy right now. If you still think you're in a democracy, you're not paying attention. When you have lawmakers getting shot in their homes and the president of the United States can't even be bothered to call the governor of the state where it happened because he doesn't give a shit. He doesn't care. He's basically saying, I don't care. If somebody goes and kills a bunch of Democratic, lawmakers, I don't care. I'm not even going to call the governor. It's open season. This is not going to be good. It's already not good. Just some of you don't realize it yet. And I'm just hoping that you do. I'm hoping that you start to wake up. This is not a democracy. These people are not, these are not even Republicans. They're not your old school Republicans. This is, these are MAGA, Mike Johnson, Stephen Miller, Trump, whatever. This is a different breed of billionaire, don't care about America, just care about making as much money as possible and working the system. Don't care about the Constitution, don't care about democracy. You have people who are openly saying, Peter Thiel, Curtis Yarvin, people that are in this administration, literally, funding the vice president of the United States saying, I don't believe in democracy. Peter Thiel doesn't believe in it. Curtis Yarvin doesn't believe it, loves AI, thinks we should privatize everything, doesn't believe in democracy. That is who is in the government right now. running things. That's why Musk was in the Treasury with 6 dudes. A lot of them racist. Not good. It's not pretty. You gotta stop digging your heels in and, just refusing. This is the last thing I'm going to say. I was watching this 60 Minutes interview with this woman, Danny Matheson. I don't know if you know this story. There are 19 women in Texas. They brought a class action lawsuit against the state of Texas. They all had pregnancy-related emergencies and were unable to get the life-saving health care they needed because of the very restrictive abortion ban in the state of Texas, okay? If you don't know about what has been happening in the state of Texas with Ken Paxton and Greg Abbott, there is the most restrictive abortion ban in the state of Texas. There are other states with similar abortion bans where the only exceptions, not rape, not incest, is just to save the life of the mother. What has happened in these states with restrictive abortion bans like this, and you can just, if you want to know which states they are, there's, I think, Tennessee, Florida, Alabama, they're growing. There's like 22 states now that have very restrictive abortion bans. Some of them have rape exceptions. You can look. But what happens, and a lot of them do not, okay, is, and let me try to explain this to you as well. An abortion, and a lot of people don't understand this, an abortion is a D&C, dilation and curettage, right? It's a D&C. It's the same, that's what the procedure is, okay? So the thing that we call an abortion is a medical procedure that is a D&C, or if you're further along in the pregnancy, it's a D&E, dilation and evacuation. Okay, so it's dilation and curettage or dilation and evacuation. That is what an abortion is. Now, you might need a D&C for other reasons. It's a medical procedure that you might need for other reasons. But that is what an abortion is. It's a D&C. So if somebody elects to have an abortion because whatever, they elect to have an abortion, the medical procedure that they would go and get if they were in a state where, there were not restrictions is a D&C. If you're in the state of Texas and you are pregnant and you want to be pregnant, you are happy to be pregnant, you are excited to have a baby, but you have a pregnancy-related emergency and you start hemorrhaging, you have a miscarriage. It's very hard to talk about. I have so many friends who have gone through this. You are hemorrhaging. You are going to run to the emergency room. That's what you would do. The procedure you need to stop the hemorrhaging is a D&C. You need an abortion, a D&C. It's the same procedure. The abortion ban is in effect no matter what. The circumstances don't matter. It does not matter if you are someone who is, electing to have an abortion, or you are someone who is pregnant, who desperately wants your baby, but is now having an emergency. You are losing this baby, and now your life is in jeopardy, and you need a D&C to stop the bleeding. The abortion ban applies to you as well. So you go to the ER and you say, I am hemorrhaging, help me. The doctors there at the ER in Texas do not know when they're allowed to step in and save your life, because these abortion bans are written by lawmakers. They are written by men who do not have medical degrees. So there is nothing in the ban that says what it means, life of the mother. At what point can a doctor feel sure that if they step in and later the state of Texas says, you shouldn't have stepped in, that mother's life wasn't at risk yet? At what point can the doctor feel sure they're not going to lose their medical license or go to jail? Because that is what can happen to doctors in the state of Texas. If they jump in too soon and try to save a woman's life or a girl's life who is hemorrhaging, they can go to jail. They can lose their medical licenses. There are Republican lawmakers right now in this country who are trying to introduce legislation that would make it possible to bring up charges on any woman who had an abortion, accuse her of murder, bring up charges against the doctor for homicide. That's what's happening now. All of you, let's just leave it to the states. Just leave it to the states. This is what happens when you leave it to the states. You get Adriana Smith in the state of Georgia, brain dead, put on life support because she was pregnant. And the state of Georgia decided we have to keep her alive because there's a heartbeat. And so her family doesn't get to decide what happens. She's brain dead, but we're going to keep her body alive because there is a baby in there with a heartbeat. And so that's what's going to happen, even though the baby's very unlikely to survive. And they kept her alive until this past week when they had to do a C-section. And now that her son is in the NICU. He weighs a pound and change, and they do not know what's going to happen. And now her family is finally allowed to lay her to rest because the state of Georgia has decided they don't have any more use for her body. This is what happens when you put men like this in power, okay? Leaving it to the states. The state can tell your family that you need to be kept alive on life support, and they need to pay for it if you have a pregnancy going on past 6 weeks. Texas. Okay. So 19 women in Texas, they said, you know what? At the very least, let's make the Texas lawmakers elucidate what it is if a woman's life is at risk when the doctor's allowed to jump in. In other words, does her blood pressure have to have dropped below a certain point? Do a certain number of her vital organs need to be failing? Tell us exactly what it is, when it is. Does she have to be in sepsis? What has to be happening before it's okay for a doctor to step in and give her a D&C? So that there's no more confusion here. So that, if somebody like me, Danny Matheson, is in a situation, and in her case, what happened, and the same thing happened to Kate Cox, by the way, in Texas. She's a part of that lawsuit. If my doctor, I go for my ultrasound, and my doctor tells me, oh, your baby has a fatal fetal abnormality and is not going to survive. Can I get an abortion then? Because what happens for women who are forced to carry to term a baby who's not going to survive, first of all, it puts the mother in jeopardy. It puts her future fertility in jeopardy. And secondly, it is so traumatic to make a woman who knows at the 5-month mark, this baby is not going to make it. I'm going to deliver a stillborn baby. What horrifying human being wants to traumatize someone that way? So these women are being forced to leave the state of Texas to go and get medical care because it does put their lives at risk. They're carrying, I hate to say it, they're carrying dead tissue. That's not okay. We're not meant to do that. If your body doesn't do what it's meant to do naturally and have the miscarriage, this is not this this is not your lane. This is for a doctor to figure out with her patient. This is not for Greg Abbott and Ken Paxton to be deciding. But these women banded together and decided, okay, then if that's what you're going to do, tell us what it looks like. When are doctors in our state allowed to help us and save our lives? At what point? What are the circumstances? And the Supreme Court of Texas rejected the case. This is what it looks like when you leave it to the states. So this woman, Danny Matheson, she ended up, her mother, who is a physician, sent her tickets to get out of the state of Texas and gave her cash to get an abortion in New Mexico so that there would be no record of any of that, because there is a $10,000 bounty on anyone who helps a person in Texas procure an abortion. This is not normal, okay? And I want to just say this to you, a couple of things. Anywhere in this country, if you take your son into the ER and he's hemorrhaging, no one's hesitating. No one's hesitating to help him. The doctors are taking him right in and they're going to try to save his life. Why is that not the case for our daughters? Why does it matter as a girl or woman? Why are your rights dependent on what state you're in? It shouldn't matter what state you're in. Your rights to life-saving healthcare should not matter. You should have equal rights to life-saving healthcare no matter where you are in this country. And I have a son and a daughter. My daughter's life is just as precious as my son's, So there's a clip of this video of Danny Matheson, who was devastated, by the way. She wanted this baby. She wanted this baby. There are pictures when she found out she was pregnant. She's holding up the sonogram. Her husband's kissing her on the forehead. They're super excited. They sent out they were thrilled. And then she finds out this baby's not going to make it. She's devastated. She's crying telling this story. And some woman in the comments is like, this just seems curated. This is just curated to make people feel bad. I don't believe this. And a whole bunch of people like her comment. When you get to a place that you would rather call someone a liar, it's public record, by the way. Okay? It's public record. It's true. And I don't even know. It's public record. These women went and filed a class action lawsuit. Their cases are real. Their stories are real. These things happened. They're real. They're real human beings. And they're going and sharing these terrible stories to try to prevent other girls and women from having to go through this. That's what they're doing. Nobody wants to tell these stories. She was crying sharing this story. And some woman in the comments can't even have the compassion to stop herself from saying, I don't believe this, calling this woman a liar. So she's been through a tragedy. She's grieving and mourning. She's putting herself on the line by sharing this, great personal cost. And instead of having any kind of compassion or support from a person who identifies as pro-life and Christian, right? This woman, she's called a liar, because it's easier for this woman to reject this reality, to push it away, to say, I don't like this. This is making me uncomfortable. This is challenging my worldview, my core beliefs. I don't like your story. So because I don't like it and it's making me uncomfortable and it's making me feel icky about what I voted for and what I believe and what I want to keep believing, I'm just going to call you a liar. That is not it. That's not what you do. Okay? when you see a story like that, anywhere in life, when your core beliefs are challenged by something that is compelling, that makes you uncomfortable, that makes you question whether what you've been thinking is maybe not, that's your marker, right? That's the moment to say to yourself, wait a second, maybe this is not right. Maybe this is not okay. Maybe there's a woman, like in another state who's suffering because of what I voted for. And maybe I should just think about who I'm loyal to right now and what I'm doing. What am I doing? If you're really pro-life and what you want are fewer abortions, let me just tell you, there are fewer abortions under Democratic leadership. Just Google it, if that's really what you're worried about, and that's really what people are like one issue voters sometimes. If that's really your one issue, just Google that. Are there more abortions with Democratic administrations or Republican administrations? Do infant mortality rates and maternal mortality rates go up or down in states with restrictive abortion bans? I'll give you a hint because I already know. In states with restrictive abortion bans, infant and maternal mortality rates go up by a lot. They go up by a lot. So if you're pro-life, you should not like that. You shouldn't like it. And you should be voting for something else. So that's it. Okay. I think what I wanted to really end with is don't give in to the hatred. Just don't allow yourself. I know it's really hard, but the minute you get to a place where you are like, I hate these people, I have contempt for these people and disdain, you're a flip side of the same coin. You're just a flip side of the same coin, and you've been infected with the same dis-ease. Just don't let it happen. Don't give that to them. I was talking about being in an abusive relationship, and I've been in, unfortunately, more than one of those in my lifetime. And the feeling, the gaslighting, that feeling of just, somebody you thought you could trust, or somebody who you thought loved you, suddenly pulling the rug out from under you, or stabbing you in the gut or the heart or the jugular, and then laughing while you bleed, that feeling of not knowing when the next shoe is going to drop, that feeling of just being unsafe, of not recognizing yourself anymore, of compromising until you're you don't even know who you are, recognize yourself. That sort of frog in the pot of boiling water, where these things are happening slowly over time. I've been in those relationships, and I was saying this being in this country right now is like being in an abusive relationship with your own government, and it's not normal. A normal functioning democracy is you've got public servants, and they're just doing the work of keeping things running. It's not a hellstorm where people are screaming at each other all day long. It's this and laughing when people who didn't vote for this are suffering. That's dysfunctional, and it's not a healthy democracy. We don't have that here. That's what it looks like in, places like Finland and Norway and Canada and Australia and New Zealand, and, not here. This is not what we have going on here. And that abusive, just painful relationship. It's more like I was describing, what happened one summer when my parents brought live lobsters home, and, threw the lobster in the pot of boiling water, and they make a screaming sound. And I thought the lobster was screaming. They say that it's the sound of the steam escaping from underneath the shell, but I was 10 and I was sobbing. That's what it's like here. It's like you're in a pot of boiling water. It just, there's not even time for the steam to escape. You're just, it's just one thing after another, and you can't break up with these people. You can't say like, this is not working. Like, you're here. It's very painful. And the cognitive dissonance, like of having these things happening and still having to like somehow do your life is really hard. And so if you're struggling, that's a sign of sanity, and it's a sign of health. It's a sign that you are not infected with this like contempt and smug disdain. It's so ugly. Just don't let that happen. Don't let that happen to yourself. Stay. I know it's painful. Just try to like stay like as hard as it is, like keep your compassion muscle strong. Keep your distance from people who are still supporting this, because, you need to, but don't let hatred take a hold of your heart. That's when they win. And that's when we are really doomed. Don't let it happen. Still fight the good fight and care about your neighbors, even when they don't care about you. Just care about people because they're people, and hope like hell they're going to realize soon that the people that they've voted into power here are not looking out for any of us. Let's not give up yet. Let's really try to hang in there with each other. Okay. And I'll see you soon. And you know where to find me if you need a little extra help, a little extra love.